All right, so quick introduction to myself. I am the New England Territory Manager for our company, Synergy Reps LLC. That means I cover all 6 states in New England. Prior experience is in sales, marketing, and working as a chimney tech. I do have 3+ years, going on 4 in the HVAC/R industry. We are saying hold your questions till the end. We previously discussed that we are going to open up those questions after each slide, especially when we get into the commercial aspects of Ultravation. We do encourage everybody to follow Facebook and YouTube. We like to encourage people to follow that just because we do pump out a lot of new content with existing and newer products when it comes to that, especially right now when we're really trying to inform the public with Ultravation. This is a great chance to kind of hit on some topics when it comes to that as well. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. So some of the common IAQ technologies that we're going to cover today are going to be UVGI, PCO, and ionization. UVGI is ultraviolet germicidal radiation. It is a disinfection method that uses short wavelength light, UVC, to kill or inactivate microorganisms. This occurs by destroying nucleic acids and disrupting their DNA, leaving them unable to perform vital cellular functions. PCO. PCO is photocatalytic oxidation. It is a very powerful process that combines UVC radiation with a substance catalyst, titanium dioxide, which is referred to as TiO2. This catalyst effect results in a reaction that breaks apart the cellular structure of pollutants. So we do have a short video that's going to kind of give you a little visual representation on what happens when PCO is taking place.
Here's how it works. The UV UltraMAX Advanced Oxidation Module is coated with an exclusive titanium dioxide formulation. When UV light is applied to the surface, the titanium dioxide coating becomes energized, causing it to release electrons. The electrons then combine with oxygen to create what are known as superoxides. The titanium dioxide then collects replacement electrons from moisture in the air to become charged particles known as hydroxyl radicals. Together with the superoxides, a powerful photocatalytic oxidation, or PCO field, is created. As odors, germs, mold, and other VOC organic molecules approach the PCO field, they are disassembled as the oxidizers pull electrons from them. The purification process is completed, with the remaining molecules recombining to form simple water vapor and trace amounts of carbon dioxide. Ultravation's advanced oxidation process.
So that kind of gives you a small visual representation of what's happening when PCO is taking place. Next, we're going to jump to ionization. Really won't have to pay too much attention to this unless you're really looking at the residential side of things, but just so you know what that is, it basically what's happening when ionization is taking place is it's electrically charging air molecules by generating negative ions using electricity and discharging them. These negative ions attach to positively charged particles and triggers a bond to create denser particles. So go ahead and jump to the next. So Eli, I know in your email when I was asking you to basically lay out the questions that you guys wanted to have answered during our presentation, and one of the questions was what type of third-party testing do we have in regards to our product, and what kind of basically recommendations for our product do we have from a third party. And a lot of our training has to do with ASHRAE's position. If you're not familiar with ASHRAE, this is basically the standard in the HVAC industry, what we go off of as far as the standard goes. And ASHRAE's position is that you use UVGI technology to kill viruses and bacteria. So UVGI technology is only found in UVC lamps. So we do have links to ASHRAE's actual handbook where this is stated, which I will send you in a follow-up email after the presentation's over, so you do have that in writing, but that is your answer to that question there. We do have it in the handbook there on chapter 62, and that is for surface treatment and in the Airstream treatment for that.
So what you're saying then is you're using the ASHRAE formula to put this out, but who is saying that it is killing the germs?
This is, I can jump in on this one. So I just attended a very, very important training this morning at 8 a.m. with New York City, and we're catching them up on what's going on. So there is another organization that has done all the third-party testing over the years, right? Bacteria, viruses, everything. And the common answer is, thanks to the scientific method of them testing this across all forms of bacteria and viruses, that is why it became documented by ASHRAE standards. And the CDC also calls out the standards of you have to be using UVC wavelength light, which actually Rob's going to get into on the next slide here. If people still need additional, basically documented testing, we can get that from the factory, because basically our factory and every other UV manufacturer are following the same standards right now. Because a lot of people are saying, well, okay, well, where's the test showing that you've tested for Corona and COVID? Well, they don't exist because it didn't exist before. So, and the beauty of that is that because it's just another airborne virus, this technology's been tested on things way stronger.
So long as the technology is showing that it's killing the germs or killing the viruses, and a similar virus is, I guess would be sufficient. Mm-hmm. And you have the data for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If those third-party tests are needed, we can get that from the factory and they can send that over as well. Because actually the same thing came up on this morning's training too. And they just wanted that in case their superiors were looking for that data as well.
They will.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will right here. This is a very big, how you call it? It's a very big step that we're going to take. And definitely this is what they're looking for. So we're definitely going to need proven facts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and like I said,
being that we're the Museum of Science,
right?
So our president is trying to dictate that we lead the charge on this.
Mm-hmm.
That, people will follow us. Yeah. So we need to make sure we're doing the right decisions and making the right decisions and doing the right steps and in right order and everything else. So, it is really important, and we're doing our due diligence and looking into everything because of that. Yeah. We don't want people coming to say, well, you guys were saying that this was the way to go and it didn't work. Then we look stupid.
Oh, I totally agree. The beauty is this is already proven tech. So that's one weight off of our shoulders. Getting you the backup information, not a problem. Because again, like I said, I literally was on this call with New York City and their sanitation department is a first response team because they're keeping the city clean. They're the ones that's going to help the city reopen. So they take this stuff very seriously as well. And like I said, the beauty was I got to hear it firsthand from the president of Ultravation on the call this morning saying, listen, everybody's following the same standard right now. So that's not a problem. They can get you whatever data you want. And that's something else is important as once we finish the training today. And when we start working on quotes for you guys, as far as assessing all of your spaces, is that is part of their quoting process too, is that a professional quote will come forth from the project manager at Ultravation with actual graphs showing disinfection rates. So that is why we take the quoting process very seriously and understanding the public spaces and the equipment involved and the amount of air supply and all that, which again, Ron will expand on here.
So not to get off track here, but so a building like ours, it's a museum. Mm-hmm. It's old. We're not equipped to handle, we're not a hospital, so we're not built to set up equipment to kill germs and all this stuff. Is it feasible or is it doable to do it in a building like ours?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure, every museum is probably set up almost the same. If it's, if there was even a museum in New York City. Yeah. So, we've got big, large air handlers that are serving large spaces, and moving some pretty serious air.
Yep.
So, Is it killing germs, at that rate,
Yeah.
or is it over time?
No, again, they'll get into that. That's where once Ron finishes this, you'll see he's going to show you how we attack surface area concerns within equipment. But then more importantly, which is a lot of the discussion points, is based on air supply, right? And dealing with Airstream disinfection rates for the airborne. And to your point, right, you're moving a lot of feet per minute of airflow.
Mhm.
That all comes into the calculations. So I'll have Ron take that back in. We'll bring that back in and make sure we revisit that today to make sure that you guys are more confident on that. So
yeah, we'll definitely circle towards that. And Eli has a little bit of experience with this already with the sizing guidelines he's already filled out
Yeah,
for some of your
filled
guys'
it out.
equipment already. So he kind of understands like how we're looking at that in the measurements that you have, so we can properly address each of your guys' applications as well. And to Scott's point as well, we do look at the disinfection rates, and you guys will get the charts that shows the disinfection rates for specific viruses and bacteria as well. So we give you recommendations and show you the disinfection rates. When you use a certain amount of our product, we might recommend that you use 4 of a certain product, and you might get a 97 disinfection rate, or you use 2 and that only might solve for a 57% disinfection rate. So we do leave it up to you guys. We give you the recommendations, and it's up to basically the buyer how much they want to solve for in that case. But I can get into that as we go on here a little bit more. But those are all good questions.
Oh yeah.
So understanding UVC energy. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with this by now, looking at UVC and how popular it's becoming, but we're looking at the chart here, and we're looking at UVC in conjunction with UVB and UVA, and we're showing the potency of UVC on the UV spectrum here. And we're going to show you here how it's the most concentrated energy packet that is found on the UV spectrum, which is, in case, the most destructive packet of energy that does not reflect or nearly refract at all. It is the most dangerous form of ultraviolet light. The UVC energy renders microorganisms lifeless in a fraction of a second. So it is extremely dangerous. That's why we do really try to hammer home these trainings and really try to get people to take this seriously. These do need to be installed by professionals as well. They are dangerous, but they are also very effective at the same time, as you can see. Next, I want to direct you to the purple circles there. So if we focus on the middle there, kind of the silver circle, that is showing what the lamp and the disinfection rate of the lamp is going to be the closer it is to a surface. And then if you look at the outermost circle, that is going to show you how that kind of dissipates the further away it goes. So the closer it is to something, the more effective it's going to be. That's why a lot of the times we're going to recommend multiple bulbs per coil or in the Airstream, depending on what you're trying to solve for and how efficient you want to be in your solving for that particular problem.
Cool.
So go ahead and jump to the next. So another thing that we do want you to understand is our T3 class UVC bulb. This is a feature that you're going to see with Ultravation, and you guys won't have to worry about this too much, especially in the commercial aspect of things, but we did want to point out our patented T3 bulb that is encased with a quartz sleeve and does have insulating gas that protects the UV lamp from cold air. It is a technology that allows for higher levels of UV disinfection and a lower overall electrical cost thanks to the installation process, and lamps are protected from moisture and debris, allowing for the longer service life of the bulb. So if you look at the red dot on the chart on your right there, a typical UV lamp is about 60% efficient. Then our T3 enhanced lamp is operating at about 100% efficiency.
And the reason why we bring this up is this is standard on almost all of our commercial designs. We only put the best bulbs in there with our patented, because again, in a commercial application, you have all kinds of things happening. And to your point earlier, there's so much airflow and there's so much chilling of air in the summertime, right? So the advantage of this patented design is that bulb is protected to reach its maximum potency. That whole extra layer of insulation, ensuring that the bulb is going to reach its peak burn rate. So that's why we make that standard on our basically almost all of our commercial.
Yeah.
Residentially, it's optional. So,
and you'll see this on a lot of our higher end residential stuff as well, but you typically don't have to worry about that on commercial because it becomes standard.
Yep.
So this is the chart that we're going to look at. This is an optimal situation type of chart, and we're looking at bacteria and viruses here and the 2 points of contact when you're treating for surface level treatment and Airstream treatment. So if you're looking at the blue, that is representation of bacteria and surface treatment. If you're looking at the green, that is a representation of air and virus treatment. So if you're looking at the bottom there, you're seeing if you're just treating a surface treatment. So if you're just treating the coil there, you can get almost at 100% efficiency with just treating the coil for that particular bacteria. Now, if you go all the way up to the top, if you just treat the coil for the ecovirus, you can hit that at about 23.92%. But if you want to get to 99% plus, you need to treat the Airstream as well.
This has been a very educational graph for a lot of people. Don't understand the
Yeah.
importance of combining both technologies and both applications. So
yeah, so we always recommend that you treat both the Airstream and the coil treatment. So a lot of people think you can just throw it in the Airstream and you're good to go and not worry about the coils, but reality is like you do get a lot of growth on the coils. They do get wet. It's a breeding ground for bacteria, mold, and a lot of other stuff on there. So, and then you do need to treat the Airstream as well. So
yeah, especially when I send you the quote, I actually put the pretty much what the coils look like at this moment. They're clean, but of course it's one of those things is they have age, and of course they have growth on them. So there's certain things that I definitely need to know between both that and our benefit to actually remove the percentage that I told you. So I would love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and a lot of the times too, this is another reason we ask, what are you trying to solve for in particular? And I saw that on your form there, you put to treat COVID. And a lot of the times prior to what's going on right now, people are saying, I want to treat for, say, the flu or the ecovirus or something like that. So we need to know that you want to treat for that particular virus so we can recommend a product accordingly. So we know exactly we need to treat this much of the coil, we need to treat this much of the Airstream, and we need to treat it with this many bulbs per. So
well, the one thing the one thing that we know already, I mean, to be serious, we already know about many of the other things that's been going on, influenza, everything else. The one thing is the unknown about this virus, and this is why I kind of want to focus on the COVID-19 area. So that's pretty much why I put that down on my paperwork.
Yeah.
Which basically means you're definitely going to see a quoted solution involving coil, because that's entry level, and you have to have an air supply system basically. So you're automatically, and that's why if you look at the bottom of the graph, like the blue, you see UV matrix SI, that's the model number of our coil application, and the UV matrix AS is the model number of our air supply application. So no matter what, you guys are definitely going to have solutions with in-duct air supply protocols using probably the AS model. So
awesome. Yes.
So this is a pretty neat chart, and like I said, Ultravation will, if you want to treat up to the maximum amount that you can, then they'll recommend the maximum amount of efficiency that they possibly can to treat for that. Some people are fine with only treating 60% efficiency. Other people want the maximum. So it really just depends what you guys want to do.
And to be fair, if you're in a facility that has none of this, a 70% disinfection rate is a huge win over having nothing. So it's still great steps in the right direction. So
absolutely.
Actually,
so
Ron, did you send them the new
green chart? This green chart is basically showing you the airflow.
No, so this is a great example of what Ron just trained on was, okay, if I actually, you know what, I'm going to do a quick screen share flip to our corporate literature on the commercial stuff. So this actually will help you tie it all together. So, and Ron, did you send this to them yet? The commercial overview?
I'm not sure. Eli, did I send you our commercial?
Does this look familiar, Eli?
I got it from your website, and I was actually reading the difference between the SI and the AS. So I
Yes.
kind of got familiar specifically with the customized system that you actually have implemented.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I sent it to somebody. He's been busy, so I'm not sure if he took a
That's
look
cool.
at it. He's probably been busy. So please, if you could elaborate on it, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Well, this is a great light overview before you get the future more in-depth quotes. But like, for example, here's the SI. You'll notice that graph is very familiar, right? But there's no green on this graph because this is, again, dealing with surface contamination that we have concerns with. So things like streptococcus and other areas like influenza A can and will pass by your cooling coils in the system. So they're showing you, great, if I just put, if you have coils this big, if I just put racks of bulbs on my cooling coils, this is what I'm achieving. These are some examples of what I can achieve just addressing the coils in the system. But you notice there's no green on the graph. Well, because I'm not adding in an air supply protocol yet. I'm just dealing with surface area applications inside the HVAC system. Then when you proceed into our in-duct supply options where we're adding this on, now we can piggyback on that green graph and say, great, thanks to me already putting on, for example, a coil application for, let's say, ecovirus. Great, I already put the racks of bulbs in, but now if I truly want to get up to that 90 percentile, I have to be adding in an air supply protocol in the supply ducts. Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah, that's what I was actually looking into the level of what you guys are providing. So you have to pretty much kind of bring both, so it does kind of a double whammy.
Right.
So it goes one and then hits the other. Yeah.
And that's why I love the literature here, because in the bottom right on this page, it shows examples of how the AS model can be applied in many different applications, depending on how much air, how big is the duct, how fast is the air passing by. That example here, you got two sets of racks of bulbs in a row because maybe the air is moving so fast through there. And for that project's goal of disinfection rate, they might have to have two racks in a row to create that massive, repetitive passing by of the UV lamp to create that disinfection rate. That's why every job is going to be a little bit different. How big is the duct? How fast is the air, et cetera. But these are different ways that the AS model can be applied to reach those disinfection rates. That's why eventually when you get your quote back, you'll have those examples. That's why it's so important. Okay, how big is the equipment? How big is the coils, at least for up here? And then, okay, now how much air is being pushed through? How big are the supply ducts? How fast is the air moving? And then what is your goal of disinfection rate? Because then that'll determine how we can apply the AS model into the design.
Exactly.
Yeah, I sent you some sizing of pretty big coils of pretty much our biggest area. So probably almost about 25,000 CFMs coming out of.
I've been in back in the day when I learned about this technology, when we first took the line on as a representation, I got to go onto a roof of a big Philadelphia library, and they had 6 massive rooftop units, and I had never stepped inside of one before. And the same product engineer we have to this day, Bill Fowler, he's like, all right, break out your tape measure. and I was like, what's going to be here? And I'd never seen it before. He's like, oh, you're going to have a lot of racks of bulbs on this thing. So, but back in the day, this is probably 8 years ago, they were concerned with the black spores. It was very inconsistent. Some of the rooftop units, there was nothing inside of them. Other rooftop units, they had black spores on the outside casings across from the coil, but it was not consistent across all equipment. It was very interesting.
It's the same experience that I have, specifically working on malls. The closer you get to where they're actually working on the food court, that's where you get more mold spores. The other side, totally different. So it's absolutely totally understandable.
So a great example there is I always tell people, think about anything with yeast, pizzerias, restaurants, breweries, right? All that stuff. Guaranteed you're going to get some more coil contamination there, and definitely going to see some more issues with growth just from that type of environment. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at it, if you go back to that, you don't have to do it now, but when you guys are reading up on that, you can look at it. There was a little segment there that it talks about getting the right dose of UV treatment too. Right there to the right, it says getting the effective dose of UV treatment there.
Yeah.
So that is why we measure. That's why we take measurements of the coils, of the ductwork, everything. That's why we look at what you guys are trying to treat for, so we can get the right dose, so it is able to be in there and shine in the area for the correct amount of time to disinfect the air.
Yeah.
Mm.
And when Ron went over that purple sphere, right, the amount of microwatt exposure coming off of the bulb as you get further away, that is also a reason why like the AS models are designed a specific way. Each of those bulbs are already mounted 10 inches apart. So less than 12 inches apart to reach, and that's where it shows right here with this little diagram, you're seeing the overlap of UV light from bulb to bulb to bulb. And then from that, they can then determine based on speed of air and the amount of air passing through there, okay, is it enough with just 4 bulbs? Do you need 2 sets of ASs? And that's where our engineers then figure that out for you guys.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah. Well, let me switch back here because then we can, Ron can finish showing you some of the examples. And we're going to drop Ron. The next couple of slides are going to be based on the portable stuff. So
Okay.
More modular, and then you can get into the actual dedicated commercial applications.
Okay, so I'm going to briefly go over these for you guys really quick, just in case you guys do have applications for these. But this is our portable air purifier. So in your guys' offices and certain places in the building where you guys do not have ductwork or you want a little bit more air purification, we do have this little portable unit that does up to 500 square feet. And if you look at it there, it does, it is sitting next to a set of keys right there. So it is extremely small. Yeah, I think it's a plug-in unit as well. I think it's 9 by 9 by 3 inches tall. So it doesn't take up a lot of space. So that is a nice little unit as a little plug-in unit to put in some of those places that you want a little bit more air purification there. So, and it does deactivate air.
And this can run while people are in the area?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you could set this right on your desk if you wanted in your office.
Yeah, there's a small turbine fan underneath the center of the chassis. That's why there's little rubber feet. There's actually a washable air filter in there, and there's a small the UVC class lamp. And then you can see there's actually like a grid behind those holes that are drilled in the front of it. That's our carbon bricks that have been treated with the titanium dioxide. So this also creates the photocatalytic oxidation. But because those are carbon, it's a zero ozone product. So it's not giving off any ozone. It's an air purifier. So that'll help deal with everything from even like auto emission smells. It's breaking down those airborne VOCs. So it's a great deodorization component as well.
Yeah. Yeah. People like these in, I mean, offices, people's dorm rooms, laundry rooms, any types of places like that you want a little bit more air purification in. They're really neat.
I've had people stick them in maintenance closets.
Yeah. I mean, wherever you're getting like those smells and just places that you just want to be a little bit nicer. So, and it's a nice little plug-in unit as well.
Yep.
Right, jump on to the next. I do want to mention this. There are a lot of mini splits out there. I don't know if you guys have them in your buildings or not, but there are a lot out in the market. So I did want to go over this really quick. This does have UVGI technology in it. Super easy to install inside the mini splits. It wires right into the system. It does have a little power pack, 2 7-inch bulbs. You can put the power pack right on top of the system, or if you have room, you can mount that right inside the casing as well.
So we're looking at no heat emittance out of them, right? They just rest like that because that's all plastic. Yeah, definitely.
Correct.
Nice.
It won't damage the plastic. They do have directional shielding on them as well, so it does have a little shield. So you point that in the direction you want those to shine on. You can mount those over the blower wheel or over the coils. We typically suggest that you mount those over the coils if you can. So.
Yeah, obviously the light can only exit from one side of the bulb thanks to the wraparound shielding. And then the end mount points are self-adhesive mounting because you have to change these annually. And but the beauty is you're going to spin that chassis, and once you've added it here directly where you want it. So obviously you're not going to spin this so the one side of UV light is shining directly out of the bottom of the unit. You're going to target at your concerned area. And most guys are going blow wheel or coil because just like in a big HVAC system, right? Moisture plus dirt. These little ductless heads are, I call them little petri dishes on the wall. It's like, it takes me back to elementary school science class. I was like, I could just imagine what's going to happen in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys have an old building. Have your commercial contractors applied these in any areas?
No.
Good.
Not yet.
A lot of colleges and universities have done it.
Yeah.
I've been dealing a lot with New York State projects right now up in upstate New York. And these have been added in to kind of piggyback instead of readdressing zoning issues and capacity. They just slap a ductless head on the wall and fix that room. And I was like, okay, well, that's now one more piece of equipment that we have to address. So versus the main rooftop units or whatever. So
yeah, no, they're really interesting. They're very popular here in the Northeast, especially. I know even in commercial buildings. So here in Manchester, there's a lot of old mill buildings, and instead of running ductwork, they're just throwing mini splits in there for their primary heating and air conditioning in there, and it's pretty crazy. But those things do get extremely dirty in there, and you definitely should be cleaning those once a year and having something like that on there to keep those coils clean. But anyway, we're going to jump into the commercial solutions here. So we've briefly gone over the SI, which is going to treat your coils. We're also going to look at the SAS that we've gone over just a little bit to treat your induct solutions. And we're going to look at the 4X, which is going to be your rooftop solution. And then we're going to get into something called the upper room, which is a unique product that you guys might actually be interested in, since you do have a larger type of building that you might want a little bit more air disinfection in. Coil and Airstream UVGI custom solutions. What are you solving for? We've gone over the importance to figure out what you guys want to solve for and the effectiveness of treating both the coil and the Airstream. We know from the chart that we've looked at and gone over already. So we'll go ahead and jump to the next. Types of UV insulation, surface contact / Airstream, the UV Matrix SI, benefits of coil irradiation, bio-growth prevention, allergy relief, efficiency optimization, elimination of coil cleaning as a result of biocontamination, and Airstream disinfection.
yeah, I think it's important to note that thanks to these racks of bulbs being mounted over the coils, yes, the air is still passing by these lamps. So you are going to get a little bit of Airstream disinfection. But again, per our graphs that we're reminding people with, you're not getting it all, right? So that's why you still have to look at an actual air supply solution if you're concerned with airborne contamination, which is what we're talking about today.
Yep.
So
yeah, you won't mount the UV Matrix SI in the Airstream, but you're still going to get some sort of Airstream disinfection by mounting that over the coils. Just like Scott said, air is going to pass through there, and you're still going to get that UVGI technology happening no matter what to kill bacteria and viruses.
So just correct me if I'm wrong, these racks that are mounted before the coils, they are directly in front of the coils?
yes.
And after the filters?
Depending on where your filters are mounted, obviously every equipment is a little bit different, but yes. So for example, these
I mean,
are
normally the filters, are spaced or so, maybe, 2 feet or whatever in front of the coil. And then you have your coil. So it is mounted before the coil, though, not after the coil or anything, because it's
depending on the application and the space. I've seen them mounted after the coil too, because again, our goal here is just to get the light on the coil to prevent you're inhibiting growth, right? So yeah, depending on how much space, because again, I've never been inside of your equipment. So
yeah, I took dimensions of the coil after the coil itself, because I don't have a lot of dimensions between the filter rack and the coil itself, but I took dimensions from the coil on the opposite side to actually see that area. So I do have a specific amount of room, and I think I send you that information as well.
Yeah,
awesome.
You put a lot of stuff on there, so
I like detail-oriented people. It makes
our
job a little bit easier.
Absolutely. The more information you put on those sheets, the better it is for us to be able to recommend a product. That way we don't have to come back to you and ask more and more questions. So the more you put on there, the more that we know that you guys are working with, the better we can recommend something for you.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you have any other questions, go ahead and email me. I'll get the information you need.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
awesome.
I guarantee you, when we deal with these large commercial stuff, we're just trying to help mediate and manage the process to make it easier on the engineers at the factory, because they're so inundated, so that we're gathering all the information, getting it structured, getting organized to give you a more exact and proper quote. Because then, for example, Bill Fowler and his team can then come back, and if Bill wants to have a quick consultation call with you guys, he can. And that's what happened this morning. Like, we've already had this process started with New York and their sanitation department, and then, all right, it's time to bring Bill in and help iron out the wrinkles.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, this whole process, I think, is at this stage is a quicker process. Naturally, if we go through this, we see if it's okay. Yeah. All right, give us a quote. Okay, now, naturally money dictates a lot.
Sure.
And the quote is, reasonable, and we then proceed with it. That's when, okay, now let's get into details.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Yeah, because it goes back to that thing. I mean, I've literally had commercial people tell me, customers, and say, well, I don't have any disinfection rate, so I'm happy just getting at least that 70% or greater, because that's already a huge win for us. And then other people are like, no, I want to go maximum. Give me the maximum disinfection rate you can get me, and well, that's going to be a bigger solution. So yeah,
right. And then you know, it all money will dictate that.
Right.
Oh,
and
yeah.
a lot of the times on their quotes too, they'll put on there like, hey, you use. So just to make it simplistic, two SIs and two ASs will get you 50% disinfection. 4 will get you 70% disinfection. You guys pick which one you want to do, and obviously money is going to be a factor in there. So,
and there's other things like, I mean, here's a great example, right? Here's your SI getting it done. This is a huge train system, but these guys went all out. They literally wanted to have this access window installed for visual confirmation with UV blocking light. Okay.
That's cool.
You could also just install a pressure switch on the door, put a pair of UV blocking goggles on, and when you unlock the door, just press the pressure switch to make sure the lights are turning on, and then pop out and close back up. Obviously,
that was going to be one of my questions: is how do you know that they're working?
Right. And we literally have, depends what you want to do. We have activation switches on doors for safety. Then you have visual confirmation windows like this. And then we have actual control panels that have remote lamp monitoring built in. So again, depending on what level of install you want to go with. So
yeah, I requested the panel in our quote. So.
Yeah.
So does this connect in with a building management system then?
I don't know how that all works. I know, because nowadays you've got automation with regarding induct smoke detectors and air control dampers and all that type of stuff. This doesn't need to be tapped into that. It has its own monitoring control panel that people get that, which is what obviously you just mentioned. You just say, hey, throw that on there so I know what I'm talking about.
Well,
and I can show you guys a photo of that later.
I've got sensors on my unit that'll tell me if the filters are dirty.
Oh, well, okay. Look at you. So I wouldn't be surprised. You guys are fancy. So well, not everybody has that. You'd be surprised. So
no, well, anything. I think the monitoring system was talking about an output that will tell you if the lights are actually operational. Yeah, I was looking into that controller. Yeah, which it looked like a pretty neat option.
Yeah, actually, I could go ahead and
pulling up right now.
I'll just share it with you right now. This is not the best photo of it. I'm just going off what I already had here. I had to zoom in. It's a little blurry, but here's an example of a control panel, right? You'll have little lamp modules. So obviously these little lights will be lit up if the lamps are lit. So it's just saying, hey, great, I don't have to stick my face in there or look in. I can tell just by walking by the control panel that these lamps are in operation, and you guys are tracking them. They'll have end of lamp life because these are a T3 bulbs. So you'll have a PM cycle of every 2 years to change the lamps out. And then obviously if a lamp fails or something, you're going to see it right on the remote control panel. So, yeah. And
so
that's all you're looking for.
Eli, maybe is that something we could connect into Metasys? I don't know.
I should be able to work out the alarm if it has some points in it. It looks like it's very fancy. So I mean, it looks. I think I read something on it. So
I would imagine there's got to be some way of getting an output off of it. Just to connect into Metasys.
And we can have Ron. Why don't you take note of that, because we have a checklist, and then we can have that brought up as a discussion point with the team at the factory and saying, hey, have people tap these into building automation. So
that'll be awesome.
Yeah. I always say there's no bad question. Let's ask. So
no, I mean, you guys want to do whatever makes your life easier too. So you don't want to.
Well, I'd rather have that than have some guy sticking his head in there. Or
right. Yeah. And like, I forgot my goggles today. Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Yeah.
Now I can't see what happened.
People stare at the sun going.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, we do take, again, this is a very destructive component of the UV spectrum of light. It's no joke. Yeah. So
maybe we should have a slide on here that says do not look at these things, but
well, we put it on all of our packaging, but apparently some people still don't read. I don't know.
So. Some guy walks in there thinking it's a tanning bed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I had a sales guy look at one of these, and he did burn some of his retina looking at these, and it's like, well, you can't look at UVC lamps. I mean,
no.
We do sell goggles, so if that is something you guys are interested in, just to be on the safe side, but these things are dangerous. So types of UVC insulation, surface contact / Airstream, getting into the UV matrix 4X, and we can recommend these accordingly to the type of product that you guys are looking for as well. So the 4X, the biggest difference between this and our other products is it does have that 4X NEMA rated enclosure for outdoors. So this is ideal for rooftop packaging systems. It does require limited space, and the same thing with biogrowth prevention, allergy relief, elimination of coil cleaning as a result of biocontamination, and also Airstream disinfection. So biggest takeaway is that it's weatherproof.
Yeah, and really the biggest thing is not all rooftop units can fit our SI racks. So this is a go-to for, I mean, there's only 6 SKUs of this. You can either get them in a single bulb or 2 bulb, and then it just depends on how long the bulbs are. So if you have very small spaces to get in, depending on the level of different tiers of equipment you have on a job site, you might have to go this route. And as you can tell, whether it's the 4X or what he's going to go over next, our AS, we like to keep as much technology out of the path of air, right? So all of our, on the SI, he showed you all the wiring, all the electronics, all the bulb mounts are purposely on our rack designs kept on the far left and right to give you as much air passing.
We don't have many rooftop units.
Oh, okay,
No.
good. So
it's all air handlers. So.
okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just another option because we stick all the hardware outside of the equipment, and that way you're just having to cut access to get the bulbs in. So.
UV Matrix AS, we've pretty much gone over this. This is your Airstream UVC Light. So basically the same thing, allergy relief, odor reduction, improvement of indoor air quality through the reduction of airborne pathogens. We'll recommend, according to the form that you guys fill out, how many of these you'll need per application.
Yep.
Go ahead and jump to the next.
Yeah, this is our important education.
All right, so this is when it starts to get a little bit more interesting. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this on the website or not, but this is our UV Matrix FS series. This is pretty popular over in Europe, but it has definitely been getting popular here in the United States. I've had a lot of calls for this and also some orders for this over the past probably 2 or 3 weeks. It's definitely started to pick up. I've actually been surprised at how much it has been picking up. I didn't realize it was going to be this popular, but anyway, I'll go over the description of it and some of the benefits of it as well. So this is Ultravation UV Matrix FS series, germicidal ultraviolet air disinfection for commercial and institutional application. It destroys airborne pathogens in the air by exposing the upper regions of the room only to germicidal UV light. As air naturally circulates in a room, all the air will be exposed to UV light. Yet the design makes it possible for the room to be occupied during the disinfection process, which is the ideal time to reduce the risk of spreading infection, as well as allowing continual air disinfection. So in other words, while there's people still in the room, these are going to be mounted in the room where people can actually see these. At the top of the room, you do need a 7-foot minimum installation height requirement to be observed during the installation process, but these are going to be mounted towards the ceiling there. But this is, as the air naturally circulates, which we'll get to in the next slide after this, but air naturally circulates through the top of the room, which will give you that extra indoor air quality. So this is going to be really good for places without ductwork running to them, and also places where you do want that extra indoor air quality as well. These are pretty small. I think this does up to a 250 square foot room per one. So you typically do need a lot more than just one of these to cover a room. So this is another one where you do measure a room and we give you a recommendation depending on the size.
How big are they?
These are, no, they're, what we measure them, 14 inches, I think.
Oh.
They're about like 20 by 14 by like 6 inches deep coming off the wall.
Okay.
It's just a housing to handle, to house 2 UV lamps and the light dissipating louver panel to ensure that it's not shining light down towards people's vision. It's shining it across the top of the room.
Yeah.
So it's funny. It's high tech for disinfection, but low tech when it comes to manufacturing processes. So it doesn't need a lot. So
yeah. So not very big at all, but these are becoming very popular. So this is the chart that's kind of showing you the disinfection rate that's happening. If you're looking at the right chart there, That's the disinfection rate that's happening and how that kind of dissipates the further away you get from it. And then the left chart there is showing how the air is circulating from the top down.
Yeah, there's a natural, people don't realize this, there's a natural convective flow of air, right? Cold air on the bottom of the room, hot air on the top of the room. So there's always a natural movement of air happening without fans. And that's what this is helping deal with, right? Is there's going to be a natural flow of air, hot air is rising. So if they need to increase the level of air radiation in a space, this is how you could target it. And this is actually called out in chapter 62 of the ASHRAE handbook on UV guidelines for upper room applications. This was in their handbook. They actually show an old photo from an old New York City hospital where it was used in these massive hallways. They had one of these above every door that was coming in or out of this giant hallway. So is someone coming out of a side room or coming back into that side room, these were mounted above all the doorways. And then they also show it, there was an image called out, I think from the CDC in Brazil. They were showing it in a wide open cafeteria space. They were using them in the upper room for those dealing with the massive wide open spaces. So
how are they powered?
It's all of our commercial stuff is auto power sensing.
Yeah.
So again, you just need enough voltage to power 24 volt lamps. So it's not a lot of juice. So
you do have the option on these to plug these in as well. You do have to specify.
So it just takes basically 110 volts and you plug it in.
If you decide to plug it in, yes. We ship it with the option to plug in, but you don't have to.
You need 110.
Yeah, and our system will convert it down to 24 volts to power the bulbs. So there's a transformer in there, right? So, yeah, but that's the same thing. Our SIs, like everything is good up to 277 volts. It'll automatically pick what it needs when it's wired. But in these options, they'll also ship it with an option to just literally run it to an outlet and plug it in. So.
Yeah. I think you're going to start seeing these in probably a lot of like restaurants and places like that as well.
Yeah. Here's another example of radiance.
So in this case, is this possible in multi-level rooms? Like we have lobbies that are, areas that are massive. There's 3 floors from there, from different areas. I know it does a certain area, and we do have AC in those spaces. I just want to know if it's beneficial to install them in those areas in different floors.
So if you've got like our lobby, say. So our lobby is almost, 3 or 4 stories high.
Yeah.
Right.
It's all open, but you've got ductwork that's feeding it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you even bother with this and treat the ductwork?
You might not have to. Right. This is an added layer, right? Exactly. If we are addressing everything properly and designing your coil plus Airstream solution, and we're handling the capacity of air being treated as if the air has already been treated before it exits that vent into that space, we've already addressed that air, right? So to your point, if we've designed the proper SI plus AS, equation for that air, we're good. This would be above and beyond. And then my only concern, because I know what you're talking about, I've been in a lot of museums over the years, and you have these big grandiose entrances.
Yep.
If it's 3 to 4 stories tall, and let's say I walk into a building that has one of those spiral ramps so you can go up to the floors I've seen in Philadelphia. Well, great. I start walking around that ramp, and all of a sudden I'm eye level with that box across the way. Well, we don't want that, right? The whole point of that upper room application is that no one can look across and look straight into the box. So that would come into where they're being installed, to make sure you're not being able to look straight in through the louvers. So
Okay.
Good questions. So.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you guys on that a little bit too, because I want to see in your type of application with that, because I've been in your guys' museum as well, and I understand like the spacing and how it is multiple floors, but it's all open at the same time. So I want to see what kind of benefit this will do. But I do know in other parts like that maybe it might be beneficial too. So I'm sure
most 99% of our building is ducted.
Yeah.
So there are some spaces that do not have ductwork coming out of them or whatever, and that's where maybe something like this is ideal for it. But then again, in a situation like that, how high is the ceiling? Well, it's if it's 8 feet high, well, is this really going to fit up there? Because now you got to be minimum 7 feet So
It might be getting a little
you know,
tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
it wouldn't even fit in the room. So
Do you have an
uh,
example of what it sounds like you're referring to a space that could have some stagnant air, right? Where it's not getting regularly circulated. Is there an example? You talk about like a back corner of a sharp room, or like what do you mean by that?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, because I think 99% of our building has ductwork going to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of
So
airflow.
I'm more
in it.
concerned with, okay, where are we going to treat? How are we going to treat?
Right.
What's the most cost-effective way of doing this, and what is the cost?
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, this is where I think once we've addressed the equipment, this is where you guys are going to spend most of your time with the design is working with the AS series.
Yeah.
This is your treating the actual air after I've left the equipment and increasing my disinfection rate for airborne pathogens. That's where the AS that's your hero.
And know that I'm going to be all set for COVID-20.
Well, why stop there? Let's just go right to COVID 50. I mean, I can't keep up.
Yeah.
So-
Hopefully we're not having the
wanna
same
get there.
conversation next year at this time.
I mean, again, off the record, we've always had airborne bacteria and viruses, and it's unfortunate that things are changing and morphing. And God forbid this would morph worse than it is. But God bless science and technology, right? We get to really innovate, and you guys have a museum that gets represented. So
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think another benefit to this as well, I know like this is a terrible situation, but you look at that chart and you see all the other things that we can disinfect for as well. So I think bottom line is we can make a healthier facility by treating coils and Airstream, whether it's for the ecovirus or some of those other viruses and bacteria as well. So
I will have to say though, we with this building, with it being so open and so many people, we do have a lot of dust.
yeah, it's true.
So dust to me is a concern now for these bulbs. And how do you make sure that they're not getting coated with dust?
Well, this is why your filtration solution is always important, right? That's why when we are dealing with UV installation, we're not putting UV in the return. We're always putting it in the supply.
That's up
Because you want filtration. IAQ 101. People can put the most advanced UV systems in the world. If you have no filtration presence, I agree with you, right? You have all these large particulates that can get stuck fast at things. Now, again, the advantage of our T3 bulbs is they're not affected by the temperature shift because of that extra encapsulation protecting it. They're not affected by water and dirt and everything else. So again, but that's also why they're being mounted after the filtration process. So that'll help deal with a lot of that. And I'm guessing you guys, you have filtration monitoring. So
I mean, we change our filters quite often due to the artifacts and everything else in the building. But again, it's, we're cleaning, grills, return grills and everything else. So we try to maintain it, but it's still there. With that many people coming into your building with that much clothing and everything else, everything gets disturbed and people are bringing it in. So again, I guess, how do we know? I mean, so you got to go in and do a visual inspection of the bulbs, make sure they're not getting coated.
Yeah, but I've gone back to job sites, and again, as long as the filtration is doing its job, they're not getting coated. I mean, they're just there glowing away and doing their job. And again, you're going to change them every 2 years, so they're not going to be in there for 5-10 years.
So that's I guess that's the other thing. So as you change them every 2 years.
Yeah, our T3 class bulbs are so UV 101. Ron kind of hit it on it earlier. Is basic UV bulbs are a 9,000 life cycle bulb. All UV manufacturers guarantee, I'm air quoting, guarantee their bulbs for 2 years of life cycle, meaning burnt, like it's going to light up. If the bulb stops lighting up in 2 years or less, that's a warranty issue. But the important clarification is not everybody has a patented T3 design like we have. So that extra protection on that bulb ensures we can get maximum life over 2 years. So our T3 actually burns for 18,000 hours. So that's why for a PM cycle, every 2 years. So
and disposal of them, is there an issue?
There's a process for that too. I mean, there's a small amount of what's in some of the bulbs, Ron? That what do you call it? I forget.
Mercury.
What's that?
Mercury stuff?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
no?
There's like a less than whatever percentile of
Yeah,
mercury in there.
Oh,
So,
like a
uh,
very very small amount of
yeah.
mercury.
But that's
So
standard in all
they are
UVC.
they treated with like hazardous waste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some sort of disposal for that.
Yeah, we can
That
target that for a confirmation. I never had anybody ask that actually.
that might be a question
Sorry.
for.
I always have, because I'm always training HVAC guys, so they know what they do. They just
Yeah.
they follow their protocols. So
Well, that's probably a question for whoever picks up the trash. Honestly, like whoever.
true.
Well, I've just got to know what's in the bulb so I can
Yep.
determine, from our hazardous waste or,
Yeah.
same with, electronic ballast and everything else. And,
Yeah, you guys probably have protocols for batteries and everything
Yep.
else, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
So I just got to know what's in them
Yep.
and how to dispose of them.
Yeah, and we have actually the bulb design and stuff is actually on the website too. But if that's something you need to have documented, we can get all that from the factory, and you guys can have that in your file.
And then part of the quote should be, the cost of the bulbs afterwards and everything.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Scott,
there's different bulb lengths. So depending on the bulb lengths, that's the only thing that's going to change on pricing. So yeah.
Okay.
Scott, going back to the T3 bulb, we do have marketing on that does say that it protects against like debris and things like that, right?
Yeah, because again, nothing's going to get on the actual UV bulb because you have the quartz sleeve. So
Correct.
that's not going to inhibit the UV's bulb, releasing that UVC energy. So
Right.
if you didn't have the quartz sleeve on it, then yeah, you have stuff covering up, like that particulate is going to cover up that piece of UV light, whereas it's still emanating outwards. So
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Well, that means, is there anything else we can address for now? It sounds like you guys already sent through a nice detailed to-do list for Bill and his team. So
Yeah, well, I send you some of the bigger air handlers at this moment. There are some that I still have to. I will get you more information on, but those are a little bit more delicate.
Mhm.
But these are some of the our biggest ones at this moment.
Yeah.
Well, and I can tell you from the call we did this morning with New York, the factory even said this, like, listen, it's up to you guys and your environment. But he said to get them rolling, he said, I would say, let's target your larger populated area sections first, so you can get an idea of how this works. And then we can then get into those smaller environments, because the building we were talking about was not one big building like you guys. They had, I don't know, they had a lot going on.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, depending on how many pieces of equipment you have supplying the air to your building, I mean, do you have a total of that?
Total units?
Yeah, how many units?
Well, I'll say air handlers, we probably have 50.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, but out of that 50, how many of them are actually dealing with the big wide open spaces that are being visited by the public, right? So
probably 20.
Yeah.
Yep. About 20. Yep.
So I mean, so if you were looking to find a way to phase it, and if that was your priority, protecting the public, then let's start there. And then if all the other units are the same, then it's just scaling the math. But if they are different, then we adjust that accordingly.
Right. I mean, we would probably, target our really congregated areas like our cafe, the dining room.
Yes.
Yep.
The lobbies.
Yep.
Where they're really concentrated, everybody coming in the building. I would want to make sure that we're capturing that when they come in.
Sure.
So stuff like that. So yeah, there would be a half a dozen of the real critical ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. I send you the first floor. I send you pretty much the critical areas that are on the pretty much has to be taken care of. The lobby areas that people are going to be congregated pretty much, and then the other ones are definitely about another probably 4 or 5 that I'm going to send you over, that I'm going to take measurements on those, so then like that you could actually determine also the size on that. That's the other.
Okay. Awesome.
Perfect.
Cool. Awesome. If you guys have any follow-up questions at all, feel free to email me or shoot me a phone call, and I'll get you guys answers on all that stuff.
Okay.
Can I get a copy of this video at all, by any chance?
Yeah. Scott will have
once
that
we're done,
published for us.
actually, I'm just going to go ahead and shut down the recording now so that the system can start processing it, because it takes a little while.